companies in Dayton. A little bit about how we kind of arrived at Aileron. I have 11 shareholders, partners, so you can imagine with 11 partners how sometimes that gets a little complicated. Normally shareholders and partners are entrepreneurs, and you can imagine having 11 visionaries inside of an organization and trying to steer it and row it and make decisions. And we looked at healthcare reform in our industry was a position for what we refer to as headwinds, significant headwinds against our organization. Culture has always been priority number one inside our organization, our people. And we say that we believe in family first, and it starts with our homes, and then at work, and then our community. And it's in that order for a reason, because we feel like whatever useful tools we can give to people to be better moms and dads and better people in the community, then ultimately, if that's our position and it's honest and that's our motive, then ultimately, us as an organization, we're going to benefit from that. And then hopefully, as a community, we're going to benefit from that. Thanks for hiring 2 people yesterday. But with that, with a great culture sometimes comes a liability, because everything really, it feels good all the time, and it sounds good, and it tastes good. But ultimately, as we all know as business owners, results are really what perpetuate success inside of an organization. And results and culture sometimes collide, and especially with 11 different owners. And I was blessed with an incredible father, my dad, Pat McGowan, who just has the gift of encouragement, the gift of love of people, and he kind of bestowed that to all of us as new leaders in the organization, and a different organization. I was the 6th employee in the door, and I think we've got 185 now. And so that was a different skill set, and quite frankly, something that I was unfamiliar with. So evolving down the road, we hired a plethora of consultants. Now, I'm a consultant, so, but as we looked around the consultants and building our strategic plan, and we brought in a bunch of them and kind of secured their arrangement, I went out and visited Aileron. I was a member of Aileron, but I never went to Aileron. So we got the newsletters, we got the emails, but we didn't participate in the program outside of, I took the President's course at Ridgely Terrace probably 15 years ago, or 10 years ago. It didn't bake with me at that time. That was my fault, not theirs, by the way. And so I went out and I started understanding what this organization was all about. And it was really an epiphany for McGohan Brabender, because we looked at our strategic plan and we looked at what we wanted to execute. And then several folks from Aileron walked us around, kind of told us what they do. And I met a gentleman there. His name was Wes Guy. So I met Wes Guy. If you haven't had the privilege to meet this guy, he's fantastic. And he told me one thing, and it resonated with me, and I'll never forget it. But what he said about Aileron, I'm like, I'm just curious, why do you use Aileron? And he said, because they don't need my money. And I went, like, what do you mean by that? He said, look, their position in the community is to perpetuate independence and entrepreneurship in the community. That's their mission. And as I looked at these other consultants that we had brought on, they wanted to help us, but it really wasn't their ultimate motive. And I liked what he said, and it resonated with me. So then I went on to ask a lot of questions. Okay, so how can you help us? And they answered those questions. And then I got to the cost, and I was like, well, what's it cost? And they're like, well, that's the bad part. I'm like, well, I'm ready. And I was shocked, absolutely stunned. It wasn't here, it was the floor. And so we went all in, and I had to convince 11 shareholders that we were going to walk through this. I encouraged every shareholder to go through the doc model to kind of understand the President's course and what that meant strategically as a company. And they did, and they started to embrace the fact that, you know, hey, I think we need to run things differently inside the organization. As that began to evolve, and there was a lot of structure for the first time in the organization around how we do things. I rowed. I still like to row. I enjoy it. But I also, today, I know the liability in rowing. And before, I never saw that. But each of the individual owners started to understand where their sweet spot was, where their talents sat, and where we could use that energy and align it in sort of the organization. And if you're an owner of an organization, you've kind of earned the right to say and do whatever you want to do. And a bunch of owners sitting in a room trying to pull off a company is really complicated. It's not easy. And the thing that we struggled with the most as we moved forward was the word, and I never appreciated this word. Matter of fact, I never even liked it. Before I met the folks at Aileron, was the word governance. How do you govern an organization? And they helped us do that. We used to write a strategic plan, and I'm not kidding you, it was like this thick. And it was the strategic plan that we would walk through, and it was everything that everyone should have been doing, but wasn't doing, that we wanted to just call to their attention. That if you were doing it this way, we would be okay, so we're just going to go ahead and put it on paper and tell you. The folks at Aileron looked at our strategic plan. They were nice enough not to laugh at the strategic plan. But they drove our strategic plan to 4 pieces of paper and just drove it straight down. And then fortunately, they gave us the tools and the resources to be able to string those out and go to specific belly buttons and say, hey, here are the results, and just drive towards these results. And that started to take a new life inside McGohan Brabender. The other thing that we started to do is we knew what we did, and we knew how we did it, but we really wanted to position inside of our organization, why do we do what we do? And I hope we don't sell insurance. I tell people that all the time. I hope that's not what we do. I think what we try to do inside our organization is create an experience for people. That's what we try to do. Experience takes a burden, a product, and we try to create a different experience for people. But it caused us to lift up even higher and really identify why we get out of bed every single day. As owners, that's easy to define. We've got a lot of risk on the table. We also have a lot of reward on the table. But how do you define a why that gets maybe the person at the front desk fired up to come into work every single day? How do you instill that energy and empowerment in that? And so they really helped us define why we do what we do. And our big mission today is empowering healthier living and delivering healthier birthdays to people. And I don't know about you, but if you sell insurance, that sounds a lot more attractive than I sell insurance. And that why component has really allowed us to breed a new vision inside of McGowan Brabender. Matter of fact, we have this thing called We Believe. And if you believe in the vision, you're asked to put that vision on the wall with a Sharpie. So we walk through our building, and there are paragraphs all over the drywall about how people internally believe what our vision is. Our operations people didn't like that because they were like, you know how much it's going to cost to repaint this? But the fact of the matter is, I think what we saw in the infancy stages of Aileron is the fact that we needed an army of people behind us to help move this, and independently we were incapable of doing it. And so they put us in front of the right people. The next step and phase that we took with Aileron was the Board of Advisors. My partner, Mike Sutman, who's the president of McGowan Brabender, went to the Board of Advisors class and session and met a lot of great people, fantastic people. And we went back to the shareholders and said, I think we want to execute this platform. And I'll tell you, even my father said, I do not want a board. I do not want anyone telling me what I have to do. We've done this for 30 years on our own, and by golly, we're going to continue to do it on our own. But he changed. He changed because he saw the fact that asking outside advice in an honest and a humble way could change the way we do business. And as small companies, I know a lot of times what I struggle with is where do I share my faults and my failures and where I'm doing things wrong. Because it's really easy, especially if you're leaders, you're out selling your company all day long. And you're telling everybody how good it is, but we all have faults. And we all have those issues, and we didn't really know where to share those issues with. And the best person to share it with was another business leader in the community that was probably struggling with the same thing. So Aileron teed us up with 3 incredible board of advisors, based on how they identified where we were weak. And the first area was governance, and the second area was innovation, tight innovation. And then the third area was in healthcare reform. How do we move into like a retail environment? So they gave us those three people. We meet with them quarterly. It's phenomenal. They're great friends. They're fantastic stewards of our organization. Inside of the DOC model, we've also placed a significant emphasis on leadership, and it was one of the gifts that I heard when I first met Clay, was the fact that inside his organization there was a requirement that you had to invest in every single person, and if you didn't use those funds, you were in trouble. You had to do that. And we knew for a fact that we had to grow a team of leaders. So we started this program inside McGohan Brabender called L3, which stands for Leadership Legacy Leaders. And kind of what you said, you know, I'm only going to be sitting in that chair for 5 to 8 years, if I'm good. If I'm bad, I'll stay there a long time, or they'll ask me to leave tomorrow. But the fact of the position inside of leadership is really, how do you nurture and grow the people behind you, and how do you bestow those gifts to those people behind you? And they've aligned us with the right people to kind of lift those up behind us. What has it done for me personally? I was honestly, I was a control freak. I think, I don't mean to say this arrogantly, but I like to be creative, and I like innovation. I also am you know, perfectionism is a curse, and I like things to be perfect. I'm also, pace is my drug of choice. I like to move fast. And one of the things that I think that Aileron kind of showed me and the folks is that pace is not always the healthiest thing in the world. Perfectionism is the kiss of death. And what I've learned in that whole environment is, why don't you shoot for progress and not perfectionism? And it was a really healthy way, even when I look at my own family and my kids. And the conversations that I get to share with them isn't about the perfect grade. It's about progress in our lives as a family. And then in an organization, my job at McGowan Brabender has actually gotten easier. It's gotten a lot easier. So before, I really struggled with my schedule because I was so busy, and I think arrogantly so important. And I'm not proud to say that out loud, but I think it's true. That is, we looked at aligning the DOC model and certain responsibilities in people, and then gave them encouragement and empowerment and the authority to move and act. I've always said in life, you cannot threaten, coerce, or reward people to care. You can't. The only thing you can do is awaken the desire and give them the encouragement and the permission to go do so. And that's what we did. And so a lot of times what I've seen is I'm not as needed as I thought I was. And so the tools that I have today at my disposal is an army of people behind us that understand a vision squarely, that understand why we get up and do what we do every single day. And instead of talking to 181 belly buttons every day, I just have to talk to 5 or 6 and be in front of them, and they'll carry that message beneath. It's been an incredible gift. You know, in our industry, a lot of our organizations sell to other firms, and my father's gift to us was the fact that he wants to remain independent. That the greatest gift in the world is to watch new employees pull in the parking lot, hear about kids graduating from college, and cars and homes and all the cool stuff that they're doing. And you can only experience that if you're an entrepreneur and you're able to watch that. And so his position, loud and clear, is we will remain independent as long as we can, and that posture forward. And I really think the folks at Aileron have just really given us the tools to allow us to do that. So thanks for the opportunity to come out here. I really appreciate it and enjoy it.
Thank you.